Gold Frieza? Black Frieza?
Who gives a shit?
There's a difference. Toyotaro and Drunk Victor return. Super dope. Hey, what's up? Dragon Ball Super Dope. My name's Kyle. Thank you for checking this out. Welcome in. I feel like I just said my usual stuff, but all out of order. But that's fine. It's a random episode, man. I'm going to be talking about a lot of fun stuff today. By a lot of fun stuff, I mean Toyotaro just did a really interesting interview. Normally, his interviews to me don't ever say much, but I thought it was really interesting, the stuff that he had to share with Victory Uchida, the editor of Shonen Jump, in an interview he did, I believe on the 2nd of January. So I'm covering it like a week late. I'll say Happy New Year, even though we're well after that window where it's acceptable to say that to people, but Happy New Year to you. Before I get into the Victory Uchida Toyotaro interview, I took way more notes on it than I ever expected. I expected mainly to come into this episode and make a lot of jokes about Gold Frieza versus Black Frieza and the differentiation between the two forms, because that is, there was a more interesting quote in that interview about exactly that I'm going to be talking about. But before we get there, there was one other interesting piece of news that caught my eye, certainly, and it seems a lot of people are very excited about it. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, the video game, has announced the next piece of downloadable content, which is interesting because I'm pretty sure that Bardock one hasn't come out yet. I just looked it up. The Bardock DLC is actually coming out next Friday, the 13th of January. I'm recording this on Friday night, the 6th. So, Patreon might be hearing it over the weekend. You're likely hearing this early next week, Monday or Tuesday. So the Bardock DLC is dropping, and the next DLC that's been leaked already, I don't think it's been officially announced. I could be wrong. But the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai from Dragon Ball. So the Piccolo Daimao last tournament of Dragon Ball, which is interesting choice. Like, I'm actually really surprised they chose to do like a deep cut, something so cool that you don't typically get to see in Dragon Ball games. There are very few Dragon Ball games that have covered this stretch of Dragon Ball. Like some Game Boy Advance games, some old Famicom and Super Famicom games. This is typically not a part of Dragon Ball they do in video games. So it's cool that they're going to have this DLC for Kakarot. It's actually so cool, in my opinion. I sort of want to play it and see how they do it and see how it looks and see some of that updated art, and it'll be fun. I mean, OG Dragon Ball is the most fun part of this series for me. Very comedy based. At that point, it's basically like Dragon Ball Z Light, I guess, which is still way more preferable to like modern Dragon Ball for me anyway. But I'm excited that this is what they've chosen to do. It's got my interest in the game. This is already like the 5th piece of DLC for this game. I did not realize they've done so much DLC. I thought Bardock was like the first one. Bardock was like the 4th one. So, I guess my bad on not paying enough attention to that game. I'm gonna have to fire up the Xbox and check it out and level my characters up. I just got so tired of grinding up like experience for all the characters. I got very like the fighting mechanics in that game were kind of cumbersome to me. Xenoverse is too, but yeah, I don't know. It was fun to like fly around and explore the worlds and stuff, but even that got a little old after a point. But yeah, that's that one little piece of news I wanted to tell you before we talk about this Toyotaro interview. So Toyotaro does these World Dragon Ball News interviews with Victory Uchida, the editor for Shonen Jump. I think he does them like once a month, maybe less than that. Maybe once a quarter. Who cares? He probably hasn't done one since August when the last manga chapter dropped. So now that the new one has dropped on December 20th, we should be getting links, I think. I don't know. late next week, hopefully. Probably around the time the DLC drops for Bardock. And by leaks, I mean like the drafts and, some panels, some translations. But Victory Uchida talked to Toyotaro about this latest manga chapter and sort of where he does at first like a little bit of a retrospective on the Granolah arc, moves it toward this prequel to superhero. I see one more you MFs on the internet not understanding that what we're seeing in the manga makes the superhero movie canon. I'm gonna kick you in the goddamn head. It's not complicated, but he does ask him about Granolah first, so let me take these notes. See what we got here. So, the Granolah arc overall. He talked a ton about Frieza and how Frieza is pretty much like the hidden main character of the arc. And by that, he meant like everyone talks about him throughout, all of the characters' relationships, like everyone's sort of brought to this level of conflict because they've interacted with Frieza in the past. Everyone talks about him constantly, like he's ever present in the arc without ever actually being there until the very end. And that's something that I talked about a ton on this show, and even though that's true, it's still, I don't know, sort of makes that last chapter feel like a little bit of an ass pull. And I feel like Toyotaro was kind of right there with me, actually. Maybe that's why I enjoyed this interview so much, because I feel like me and Toyotaro are very much on the same page about how this last arc wrapped up. I felt a little validating, but he's like, yeah, it was unexpected. I felt like I was kind of walking a line of like when I could or couldn't bring him in. He basically said that they started with the end in mind, and that it was always their intention to bring in Frieza. Like, pretty much from the beginning, they knew all of the characters tied to Frieza. They were going to talk about him a lot, and eventually it was going to be his way to pop back into things and, I don't know, I guess be a relevant threat to them again. So, Victory Uchida is actually the person who kind of pushed back a little bit on him and said, some people felt like, even though he's like trying to sell it, like it was always our intention to bring Frieza in since the beginning. And this, he says it was a 2-year-long arc a few times. And I was like, ooh, stop reminding me, man. It's a long 2 years. But Uchida kind of pushes back and he's like, a lot of people thought that was like out of the blue, sort of unexpected, like basically saying like people think it was sort of a whack ending. And Toyotaro acknowledged that comment and was like, I can see why some people sort of felt that way. I swear we always intended to bring Frieza in. It was more of, he says walking a line. It was more about walking a line of like, when can we bring him in? How do we do it in a way that's surprising and cool and fun? And it was certainly surprising. It was certainly fucking cool. Fun, I don't know. Kind of fun. I like Frieza. I think I like Frieza more than the average Dragon Ball fan personally, but as excited as I am to to have them basically say Frieza's going to be around. Like he's going to continue to be a main antagonist for these Saiyans for at least the foreseeable future. I love that shit. Other fans, they probably have the Frieza fatigue. So, the next thing that Victory Uchida asks him about is the color of Frieza's new transformation. And honestly, man, like I saw the highlight, like the translation, some tweets or whatever of this line. I was like, I could do a whole episode just about that shit. No doubt about it. Because I think of the Kanye West line. I know that it's not cool to like Kanye right now. I don't like Kanye. It actually breaks my heart a ton because his first few albums mean so much to me personally from a musical perspective. But the end of the College Dropout, there's this line where I believe it's the end of the College Dropout. I could be wrong. But I forget what song it is. I just know the line. I turned around and replied, why, yes, but I prefer the term African American Express. My point is, Toyotaro made the comparison of going from Golden Frieza as the strongest form to Black Frieza as the strongest form. And him and Victory Uchida, like, I actually like this interview for a couple of reasons. One, I feel like me and Toyotaro are sort of on the same page about Granolah. Cool, didn't expect that, but is what it is. That's sort of a cool, unexpected little piece of validation. But Victory Uchida and him apparently talk all of the time. Like, I feel like Victory Uchida is more involved in the overall direction of Dragon Ball than Toriyama is sometimes. However, later on in this interview, Toyo does share quotes that will directly, contradict what I just said. A lot of Toriyama, unexpected Toriyama, good Toriyama involvement, in my opinion. But him and Victory Uchida were having a conversation one day. It's like, well, okay, if you're going to bring Frieza back, like, what's this new transformation going to look like? And I guess they were previously talking about credit cards or something, and like, what are the best credit cards, top level credit cards, and how it goes from the gold card to the black card. And that was his reason for having him go from gold Frieza to black Frieza. And then he follows that little quote up, or that little story about it up with, "I'm only half joking." I'm pretty sure that's the whole thought process behind it. You are from the gold card to the black card because you're a baller. So upon hearing that quote, immediately what I did was I went and Googled, what are the differences between the gold card and the black card from American Express, right? So, I don't know, man. I'm like a regular person. And by that I mean kind of poor. I ain't ever going to have a black card. But what I learned was the black card is also known as the Centurion card, which, I don't know, kind of a cool name, but like also the black card just, it's cool. Way cooler. The difference is, okay? If you're planning to spend, this is from the Googles, okay? So blame Google if this shit's inaccurate. If I got any finance bros out in the fucking audience who are like, that's not right. If you're planning to spend a lot of money and you want the choice of redeeming for airfare or cash, go with the gold card. Okay. If you are mostly focused on redeeming points for airfare and don't plan to redeem for cash, the black card is probably best for you. So I don't think Toyotaro smokes half as much weed as I do. Probably not even like a quarter as much. He probably's not thinking about this shit like I am right now, but you know what? Let's think about it for 2 seconds. And by 2 seconds, I mean, let's see how long this goes. The gold card, you want the choice of redeeming for airfare or cash because you spent a lot of money. So, like, what's the equivalent of spending a lot of money for Frieza in his gold form? Probably expending like a lot of ki, I guess. Probably draining on the body. I believe that's a thing they talked about in the Golden Frieza movie. Like, you haven't perfected your form. You only trained for 4 months, Frieza. You out of shape, bitch. Your body can't handle it. So, like, he expended a lot of ki, aka money, for his gold form. And he wanted the choice of redeeming for airfare or cash. Airfare or cash in this case, you could make the argument that it was like goodwill with Goku and Vegeta. So much to the point that he fought with them in the Tournament of Power, and they brought him back to life. That's the gold Frieza. Expended a lot of ki in his golden form, traded in that fucking shit for airfare with Goku and Vegeta, took his dumbass all the way to the Tournament of Power and up out of hell afterwards. That's golden Frieza. I see you, Toyo. So, because that makes so much sense, obviously, let's look at Black Frieza. If you are mostly focused on redeeming points for airfare but don't plan to redeem the cash, aka the goodwill with Goku and Vegeta, the black card is probably best for you. So, he wants to redeem that airfare, and by that airfare, he means getting around the galaxy, whooping ass with the Frieza Force. He's not going to redeem that goodwill, or he's not going to redeem that cash with Goku and Vegeta. All that goodwill. He's going to come at him next time, I hope. That's Black Frieza. Black Frieza don't fuck around. Has this been a convincing argument for you? It has been for me. I haven't thought about it very much until just now and made it all up on the spot. However, I'm kind of tempted to check out like the next questions about Black versus Gold, so let's see. Who qualifies for an Amex Black Card? How much do you have to make to get Amex's Black Card? There aren't any income requirements per se, but you most likely need to be a high spender on your Amex cards. If you're in the ballpark of $250,000 to $500,000 in annual spending across all your open Amex cards, you may qualify for the Centurion card. Is there a better card than Amex Gold? Yeah, it's the Black Card, dumbass. I already said that. Google dumbass bitch. Is Amex Gold a luxury card? Is Black Amex hard to get? The hardest Amex card to get is the Centurion card from American Express, also known as the Black Card. This Amex card is hard to get because it is available by invitation only, and potential candidates are rumored to need an annual income of at least $1 million. Damn, dog. Everything I just read made me feel so poor. Patreon.com/Dragon Ball Superdog. Let's remedy that situation. Nah, seriously though. People who make that much money, I mean, good for them, I guess, but like also, like, what are y'all doing? Is it really worth that much money? Bet you it's not if we looked at it. All right. So literally that Black Card, Gold Card shit was almost an entire episode. Then it wasn't, so that's good. I want to keep going with this Toyo interview. Basically the last thing he said about Granolah arc before we move on to Goten and Trunks, he asked him what his favorite scene was, and he straight up told Victory Uchida. The pose Frieza lands when he shows up finally. That superhero pose with the fist down on the ground, that superhero landing. He's like, I thought about that. That was a really fun thing to draw finally. I knew he was going to show up eventually. To finally have that happen at the end, like, it looked really cool. So this is where the interview got a little bit more interesting for me, in that Toyotaro sheds a lot of light, I think, or maybe not a lot of light, but gives some instances, like clear-cut instances of Toriyama coming up with an idea versus him. And like what sort of ideas were his ideas, and what stuff Toriyama said, okay, or do this. I think it's one of the more interesting interviews Toyotaro's done with Victory Uchida. I can't say I've watched all of them, but this is the one that I remember being the most interesting for this part. So they start with the Goten and Trunks superhero thing. Where'd the idea come from? Uchida says, you know, what we all know. The idea is, it's been Goku and Vegeta for so long now. For so long, dude. That they wanted to scale things back, make them a little bit smaller, put things back on Earth, give it to some other characters. In that, Toyotaro also has wanted to do a Trunks story for a long time. So much to the point that he mentions very offhandedly in this interview that several years ago, he pitched Uchida on the idea of doing a Trunks spin-off story. I don't know if that would be a limited run or whatever. I imagine it would be. But the idea that Toyotaro likes Trunks as a character so much, he wanted to do a Trunks spin-off was very interesting to me, man. It has me wondering, was it his idea to bring Trunks into the Goku Black arc? Like, was that whole deal his idea? I bet you it was. And I'm sure somebody out there knows that for a fact or not. I certainly don't. I'm not going to go try to... I don't think he was doing those interviews back then. Also, the Goku Black arc was on television. So, maybe I'm wrong. Yep, shut up, Kyle. You're wrong. See, this is what it's like to be like self-aware, people. Sometimes you just have to talk out your stupidness, your stupidity, and be like, no, you're a dumbass. Toyotaro didn't come up with that idea. Toei did, because the anime was first. Duh. Anyway, it sounds like Toyotaro's a Trunks fanboy, just like me, so I love that. It also sounds like he talks with Victory Uchida a ton. I think I already just said that a few minutes ago, but for real, there's like maybe 3 or 4 times in this interview where he's like, you and I were talking about it, and this was the direction we decided to go. And I thought that was pretty cool. I don't know. The one thing that I really like about Toyotaro, or makes me pull for him, is that he is a fan, just like you and I. Except somehow, he is now, like, more or less, driving for the franchise. And that's cool. I want him to do cool things. He seems to like a lot of the same shit about Dragon Ball that I do. That's cool. But it's interesting that he has these ideas, so he really wants to do a Trunks story, and Toriyama's like, okay, that's fine, but he's got to be a superhero. What the fuck's going on in old man Toriyama's head these days, you think? Do you think he's watching My Hero Academia? Do you think he's watching the Marvel movies? And he's like, this shit's popular? Make Dragon Ball? Or is he just like so kind of bored with the typical Dragon Ball formula? He's like, we gotta switch it up a little bit. These motherfuckers know how to fly. You know who else knows how to fly? Superheroes. Make them superheroes. So Toyotaro's like, okay, I guess. I can make a Trunks story, but it's got to be a superhero Trunks story? Meh. Okay. So the other interesting thing that I thought was like Toyotaro's response to that is like, okay. And then Toriyama goes so far as to be like, here's the reasoning behind that. He doesn't get specific about the reasoning, but he tells him that Toriyama explains like who Trunks is as a person, what his thought process is at this point in his life, who Goten is as a person at this point in his life, and sort of like how they operate. And through those conversations, Toyotaro's like, oh, all right, I get what you're saying. Okay, I can make this work. I just think that's a really interesting way to work together. Like, Toriyama's just got this weird revolving door of random Dragon Ball lore going on upstairs in his fucking brain. Some of it's been written down. A lot of it, I imagine, hasn't been, and just been floating around in his brain. And it's subject to change pretty much always. So, I don't know. He's an interesting guy to me. But yeah, superheroes, that's his thing right now. I like it. Gives us an opportunity to be goofy and fun, which is when I feel Dragon Ball is at its best. He was also asked what his favorite scene was from this most recent chapter, and he said it was also one of my favorite scenes. The scene where Dr. Briefs and his wife are like walking around with their fucking pet dinosaur, their pet T-Rex. He said that was his favorite scene. Also, he said that scene was pretty much all Toriyama. That whole idea. Toriyama. Fascinating. He also really liked the first transformation scene early on in that chapter when the boys transform into their superhero getups. Couple more quick things that he mentioned in this interview. He also said he liked a lot of the romantic scenes, the romantic comedy scenes between Trunks and Mai. He also said that in that promo art, you could see Mai in a school uniform. In that chapter 1, 88, 89, I forget. Whatever the last chapter was, you can see Mai in a school uniform in that promo art. So she will be attending Blue Hall High School with them in the next chapter, and that is going to give them more opportunities for some romantic comedy scenarios. Which, Toyotaro's like, that's something that Dragon Ball doesn't typically do. And they really haven't since early Dragon Ball with Yamcha and Bulma. Really, that's pretty much it. He basically said that you can expect to see more of it. I hope they continue to play it in a way, as, romantic comedy would imply, as a joke, where Trunks is like really into this girl and she just could not be less interested in him. They also talked about, generally like Trunks and Goten going to high school and how a lot of that stuff very obviously and intentionally parallels the Gohan going to high school piece of Dragon Ball Z. And they gave some of the characters that they go to high school names. So in original Dragon Ball Z, and I feel like a dick, I might get something wrong if I go forward with this, but let's just see how it goes. In Dragon Ball Z, Gohan had classmates named Sharpna, like pencil sharpener, and Eriza, as in eraser, like pencil eraser. Goten and Trunks' classmates have, I guess, school names, I guess. One of them is named Compass, K, compass. Do you use a compass at school? Do you? Another one's called Rula. I believe that's the African American woman. Another one is called Fyra, F-A-Y-R-A, as in filer. Let me just double check and make sure I didn't miss any. Oh yes, how could I also forget the fat glasses wearing man named Scale? As in, get on a scale, fatty, you looking kind of thick. There's also Chok, C-H-O-K, Chok. So, Scale is the little fat boy, Rula is the black girl, Compass is the big, tall, doofy white kid with the white hair, Chok is the young black man who sort of has like a Miles Morales vibe. A lot of people pointed that out the last couple weeks. I didn't see it when I read the chapter, but I guess maybe. Filer is the young blonde girl who a lot of people also said looked like Gwen Stacy from Across the Spider-Verse. Again, I guess, maybe. You saw it, I didn't, I don't know. It's not a bad comparison, but I don't think that it's the intentional ripoff that everyone's making it out to be. Okay. He also said that they're also very much based on American high school students. Okay, interesting. This was a prequel for the superhero movie. Again, if you don't think the Dragon Ball superhero movie is canon, like, how much more proof do you need, man? They're doing a story that happens right before it right now. Stop being that guy. This is a prequel made for the audience to have fun with. That was his quote. And he also teased that there will be some shit coming up with that Dr. Gero disc that they found at the end of the chapter. I'm curious to see how long this arc goes. Because eventually it's going to have to end with Dr. Hito going to prison. And then the superhero movie picks up when he busts out of prison. So, like, what do the boys do to put him in prison, potentially? And what's on that disc, dog? I need to know. Inquiring minds like mine need to know. So, interesting Toyotaro interview. I wanted to share some of the highlights of it with you. Lastly, we did just have a major holiday in New Year's Eve. And on New Year's Eve, people do this thing where they get fucked up. And then sometimes, after their whole family goes to bed, they leave you some voice messages and they say, use these on the podcast. And I say, okay, Victor O. Roman. Okay.
Super dope. Kyle, I have to do it.
Do it.
It's Victor O. Roman.
Victor O. Roman.
Super fucking dope. Happy fucking New Year.
Happy New Year.
Shout out to everybody that's on Patreon. Dallas, Marcus.
Hold on.
Tyson.
Hold on. Is he trying to do my thing right now? I'm not giving him the Island Jam, dude. But you know what? If he wants to do it, we can do the Victor version of it, right? Let's do the Victor version.
Super fucking dope. Happy fucking New Year. Shout out to everybody that's on Patreon. Dallas, Marcus, Tyson, Big Reese. You know, I don't know if Rayshawn is a part of Patreon, but shout out to fucking Rayshawn. Shout out to fucking Leonard with the comeback. Let's go. Your pleasantness, my bad for the slur. Your pleasantness is always appreciated.
I just love that he called GB Leonard by his old name. Dead name in GB? Not cool, Victor, but I know the intention was right. Anyways,
shout out, Dallas, Tyson, Marcus, Reese, Berto, I don't know any of the ones. I'm sorry, but shout out to all the Patreon. Shout out to the people that support the Super Dope. Let's go. This new arc, I don't know. I know, real recognize real. I'm not a Tupac fan, but I'm gonna consider him top 3 greatest alive.
Top 3 greatest alive. I didn't want to stop him, but you just said Tupac was still alive. But you know what, Victor? I feel you, man. Real recognize real when you see one. Here he is.
But you know what? Real recognize real. You know what I mean? I don't like him, but this arc, I know it's real. It's good. I don't like it, but I know it's good. Super dope.
Oh my god. And then he left to part 3. Like the true maniac he is.
All in all, I just like that, bad guy turned good, don't give up, make things, the impossible, be broken, stuff like that.
Sure.
What Vegeta does, what Piccolo and Gohan did.
Sure.
In the last movie.
I follow.
What Goku does all the time.
Yep.
What all these other peoples do, even Krillin, even Yamcha, even, all these things. What the fuck? That would never happen.
What the
but
fuck?
They still do it.
They still do it.
What the fuck?
What the fuck?
That's why I love Dragon Ball.
Hell yeah.
Super dope.
Super dope.
I just hope we get a little bit more action besides the little superhero thing. I'm not a fan of
Stop
the
talking shit.
Man, but you know what? I could work with it.
Yeah, you can.
Bring in Frieza. Black Frieza is my second favorite character. Probably tied with Vegeta for first. Let's go.
And that's where it ends. It sounds like he has more things to say, but instead of ending it with like a super dope, see you later, some shit like that, he's like, I love Frieza, I love Vegeta, let's go! I get it. Yo, Victor, thank you for leaving me those messages. I'm glad that you're doing it less and that you're saving it for special occasions. Always happy to hear from you, my friend. I think I said it on the show. If I didn't, I'm a dick. Victor got me the nicest fucking Christmas gifts. Like, did not have to get me anything at all. Who would? Did you buy me something? No. Why the fuck would you? Victor did. Bought me like a nice little, a few like My Hero Academia figurines and this sick ass fucking Lemillion poster. Mirio Toyotaro. Yo, season 6 of My Hero. If you're not watching it, you are missing out. Can't wait for the next new episode. I hope there's an episode tomorrow, Saturday. It's Friday night. I said that. Stop making me feel bad about repeating myself. Me. Anyway, Victor, that was a very nice Christmas gift. I appreciate you, dude. Nice messages. Yes, super dope indeed. And, Happy New Year. Right? We're well beyond the window, but I said it anyway because it's the first new episode of the year. I think that's pretty much all I have to say. I think we're done. Yeah. Hope you enjoy your week. Make sure you rate and subscribe wherever you get podcasts. If you're not subscribed on YouTube, go subscribe on YouTube. That's good for numbers, man. That's all I got to say about that. Super dope. Gold card, black card, man, they're not the same. Although, until today, they felt like they were the same because they were just rich people shit. Rich people shit? Gold card, black card, gold jacket, green jacket, who gives a shit? Patreon.com/Dragon Ball Super Dope. Oh, if you want early uncut episodes, all that stuff, and help me get on my gold black card game. You know what I mean? Suit up.